yesterday I was watching a certain ball game on TV. And as I watch, I have a certain way that I have to watch when Kentucky plays basketball. I can't just sit down like a normal person and watch TV. I've got to stand up, walk around, I've got to leave the room, come back to the room, I've got to turn the TV off, turn the TV back on, I've got to throw the remote, go grab the remote, pick up the remote, throw the couch over. I've got all these things I got to do. Well, yesterday I was watching the game, and y'all know how close it was, and there was a scene, there a part inside there, to where I was just a nervous wreck. I mean, my stomach was literally tied in knots. I was like, my blood pressure was going through the roof, my heart was pounding, I was on the verge of having a major heart attack, and I was watching this, and then a player, instead of going over the screen, he went under the screen to block a shot, and the guy from Wolford stepped back and hit a three-pointer. At the top of my lungs, I screamed out, "You idiot! Why are you going to go over the screen and block the shot? You know he's going to shoot a three-pointer. Block it!" I screamed this at the top of my lungs at a little box showing a picture. In my mind, I'm thinking that somewhere in a stadium across the nation, there was this player dribble like, "Hey, you know what? I think I just heard Barry say that I can go block that shot. I might just do that." And when I was thinking about this, two things came to my mind. First, my stomach was so upset, nervous, wrecking all this, over something that in the bigger scheme of things meant nothing to my life. Whether or not Kentucky won or lost yesterday wouldn't change my life almost. Actually, yeah, But second of all, I was getting so nervous and worked up over something I had no control over. I was worried and fret and yelling and screaming, trying to control something that I could not control. And it was causing me a heartache. And I thought more about that. I said, if you think about life in general, isn't most of the things that we worry about and we fret about fall in those two same categories? Things that in the larger scheme of things doesn't really matter that much in life. The things we fret about, the things we worry about really don't make a big difference in our life. But second of all, most things we worry and fret about are things that we have no control over. That no matter what we do or what we say or whether we worry or not, doesn't change anything about it. I was thinking about this past week, about when Jesus says, "Do not worry." We're like, how is that possible? I mean, I'm supposed to be concerned about things. I thought, yes, there's a difference between being worried and concerned. Worry is when you're dealing with things that you have no control over. Concern is when you have control over something. When you're concerned about something, you do something about it. For example, if I'm a student and I know there's going to be a big test, if I'm concerned about the test, you know what I do? I study. Study helps. Study helps me learn. Worry would say, "Oh my goodness, what if I study and I forget everything? What if I look and there's no questions?" Worry is where we have that thing where we're like, I can't deal with this. I can't control it. And that's why I love the simplicity and the power of the prayer that we prayed this morning. Because it's so simple but so profound about if we just really understood it and took it into practice, how much of a difference it would affect our life. I want us to kind of read this again. Just the first part. Hear this. God gives us serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Think about just those three things. Acceptance, courage, and wisdom. Acceptance to know the things that I cannot change. When I was a kid, there was a story that was told to me, a little parable, about an 11th century Danish king. His name was Canute. And he thought he could do everything. He thought he had the power to change the world. And so one of Elijah says, King, you're so powerful, why don't you go and tell the tides to stop coming in? And they will listen to you. And so the king went out, got a chair, set it on the beach, and stood up when he saw the tides come in and said, stop. And of course, y'all can guess what happened. The waves kept coming in. And pretty soon the chair was overtaken. And the lesson of that story is that you have to understand the limits of your power to change things. Now when I hear about that, because I'm a very positive person, I think that, okay, just put on your britches, tighten your belt, and go forward. If you work hard enough and just try hard enough, you can do it. But sometimes you have to understand that there are certain things that are not going to change. And we have to be okay with that. Acceptance is not resignation. It's not giving up the hope for a change, but it's coming to peace with what is. Coming to peace with what is. Y'all know that acceptance is the last stage of the grieving process. That you have to go through things and then you come to the point where you realize, okay, no matter how much I worry, no matter how much I'm angry or mad, it's not going to change this. And I have to accept it. I want you to read this quote. This is from Melody Betty. And she says, if we are ever to replace our lost dreams with new dreams and feel sane and peaceful again, we must accept reality. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means for the present moment, we acknowledge and accept our circumstances, including ourselves and the people in our lives, as we are and they are. It is only from that state in which we have the peace to change our dreams. Now, let me a little background on her. If you've ever heard that name before, she is the one who coined the term codependency. And this is a woman who wrote this because she was an alcoholic who married a guy who said he was no longer an alcoholic, who turned out to be an alcoholic who was lying to her. And she was trying to do all these things, thinking, if I can just change him, if I can just fix him, if I can do this, he will be better. And it's her come to the point saying, you know what, I have to just quit pretending that everything's okay when it's not. And I have to accept the reality that I am married to an alcoholic, and I can't fix it. And I'm an alcoholic, and I can't fix myself. It's accepting this reality. And only when you do that can you move forward and change things. How many of us have loved ones in our life who we wish that things were different? That we wish that we could do things the way they were, but things aren't that way anymore. And we just have to say, okay, here's our present reality. This is what I'm working from right now. I love this prayer that we said. Accept the things that I cannot change. Now, we often think about this in use with AA groups, and this is called oftentimes the Alcoholics Prayer. But y'all know that this prayer was actually written by a theologian by the name of Richard Abel. He used to be president of United Theological Seminary. But he wrote this during World War II. And this was after he had gone through Europe and then came back to the church trying to talk to a people who their sons and daughters were overseas fighting, coming home in body bags, who the world was in chaos, it was in flames. And he wrote this prayer as part of a sermon. And the difference between the prayer that he wrote and the prayer that we say is that he didn't say, give me, he said, give us. Because it was a church. They say that we wish that we live in a perfect world, but this is not a perfect world. This is the world we live in. How do we do ministry here? How do we love our neighbor in a world where we're killing each other? How do we do this? And the first thing comes is you have to accept this is what is. And that's it. Now the second part is that we have the courage to change the things I can't. I love it because it means we're not powerless. There are things we can do. But sometimes that means difficult choices. Choices that will be hard on us. Choices that will that will impact others. And sometimes we're fearful to make those choices because, to be honest, as much as we say we like change, we don't like change. Even if the are terrible, at least we know what they are. And it takes courage to look at a situation and say, I need to stop doing that. Or stop letting them do that to me. And that takes courage. And the third part is wisdom to know the difference. Because I tell you, a lot of our worries, a lot of our stomach aches, a lot of our heart problems all come from this, is that we're trying to change things that can't be changed. Or we're settling for things the way they are when they ought to be changed. And we need to know that there is a difference between the two. Now that sounds like just like, self-help, psychological mumbo-jumbo. It's not. This is actually Paul. And it's in Philippians 4. So if you have your sermon cheat sheet, I want you to look at this. I put a little bit of chart inside there. There's actually, I based this off a guy named Jim again. And going off of Philippians 4, it looks at things that Paul could not control and things that Paul could control, and the differences between the two. I just want to go through this real quick. In Philippians, there's a couple things that Paul could not control. Paul could not control the fact that he was in prison and chained to a Roman guard. That was his reality. Now, yes, he did break free before from jail and all that. That was different. But at this point, he was chained to a Roman guard. He was in prison. That was his situation in life. He could not control that. What he could control, though, is what he did while he was in prison and chained up. And what he did is that he wrote the letters to the churches. This letter of Philippians, Paul is in jail, tied to a Roman soldier while he does this. And then he shared the faith with the Roman soldier. At the end of Philippians, he says, hey, all these guys I've been talking to, Caesar's household, the guys who gave their hearts to Christ, those Roman soldiers that I've been talking to, well, they send greetings to you. So he used those circumstances for that. Second of all, he could not change his circumstances and what others did, but he could decide whether or not he was going to be anxious or pray and give thanks to God. You can't control where you are or what's going on in your life right now. But what you can say is, okay, I'm going to pray about this. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to pray about it. And I'm going to give thanks to God. Paul could not control his sermon that others did, but he could focus where his thoughts were. He said, hey, whatever is good, whatever is noble, think about these things. In other words, instead of letting your mind be settled because, oh yes, this bad thing happened to me, I'm stuck here. No. Focus somewhere else. Focus on God. He could not change circumstances, but he could focus on Jesus. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. Now, I read through this thing. How can Paul in prison talk about being content? How can Paul in prison talk about giving joy? How can Paul in prison talk about giving thanks? And it all goes back to this. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And that's what I love with the prayer. It starts off, God, grant me the serenity. It's not, let me have it. It's, God, you give this to me. Lord, let me depend upon you. Let me tie myself to you. Let me fall on your throne. Let me give myself completely to you, Lord, and then you can do all these things. I can't control what's going on in the world, but I can control giving myself to Christ and turning things over to him and trusting him. Okay, so just in a reality thing, how can we have serenity? What are some of the things that we can do? The first thing is this. Know what it is you can and what you cannot control and be at peace with it. I want you to think real quick. What is it that you're most worried about in life right now? And I want you to think, what is you worried about? And think, can I control this or can I not? Can you change it? I was thinking about this week. I kind of went through a list of things that I can't control and things I can't. First thing, I cannot control what others have done to me. But I can forgive them. That's what I can do. I told you all the story before, but when I was in the military, I was going through this thing called C School. I applied for it, and I was all ready to go, and I was stationed in San Diego, and I went to my chief. His name was Chief Hennig, and I said, Chief, I want to go to C School. Can I do it? He said, yes, Barry, you get all your work done. We'll send you there. And so 2 years ahead of time, I got it all set up, and I moved. I mean, I was a little humble brag here, okay? But I was going to be the youngest man to ever go to C School for weather, and I was so excited. And I moved my wife all the way from San Diego to Biloxi, Mississippi, and we moved all of our stuff. I gave up our housing, got the car taken care of. Everything was moved. I was all ready to go. Everything was set. Only one formality was just to get the official request of the chain of command, and I'd be on my way. And so I just went to my chief, the one who told me how to do all this. I said, okay, chief, here it is. And he put no. But I couldn't go. Y'all, I can't tell you. In fact, it was a good thing I wasn't a pastor at that time, because my thoughts and my attitude was not very Christ-like. And I tell you, I was literally consumed by hate. I could not think of one good thing about this man. Every time I saw him, my blood boiled, and I was thinking about not only harming him, but I was going to find his dog. I was going to find everything. I was going to hurt him so bad, because he ruined my life, what I thought at that time. And I realized as soon as everything was being impacted by this. I mean, everywhere I went, I was just this angry man everywhere. And I was alone. I had nobody. My wife was gone. My car was gone. My house was gone. Everything was gone. And I'm just sitting here in a bunk, and I'm just consumed. And all I could think about was how much I hated this guy. And so one day, kind of one of those things that God does, God says, okay, Barry, he did it to you. That's it. Can't change it. Now, what are you going to do about it? And I realized the only thing I could do was forgive him. Say, and I said, your dog, in my mind, and his name was Rolf. So, I didn't like it, but I got to understand why he could not let me go. And there was a reason behind it. And I understood that it was beyond his control. But I had to forgive the man. And God ended up doing something great through all that. But I was never going to be at peace until I forgave him. I could not control what he did. That was done. But I could say, I forgive you. You look down your list. We can't change world events, but I can choose to love my neighbor. I can't control other people, but I can choose how they will impact me. Now, I want to think about that. Most of the issues we have in life are because we are trying to change the people around us. We are trying to make them be someone they are not. And instead of just saying, okay, God, I can't. But now here's what you can do. You can say, I can't control you, but I can know myself and limit the impact you have on me. Okay? I told this story this morning, because this is one of those things, that oftentimes we spend our time trying to change something. If we can just be the kind of nice to them and loving and give in to them all the time, that they will change. But sometimes we have to say, okay, I'm not going to let you do this to me anymore. And we put our foot down. I told this story this morning. Freeman, he told a story about what's called a ganglion guy. And so there was this man who was born with this condition. Now, I had to explain this morning. Y'all, this is a fable. It's not real, okay? So there was a man who was born with this condition where his ganglion, his nerve endings were outside of his skin. And so every time he touched me, like, oh, that hurts, oh, you're hurting me, don't touch me, don't touch me. And so he got to the point where he realized that every time he screamed, somebody would do something for him. And so he went through his childhood knowing that all he had to say was, oh, Mommy, that hurts, or Mommy. And everybody would jump. He went to school, and teachers always gave him, not the hard work, but just gave him an easy path because he had this condition. And they did everything for him. And he went through life knowing that all he had to do was say, oh, that hurts. And everybody would back off and give him what he wanted, do what he said. And one day there was this girl who fell in love with him, and she was just so in love and felt so sorry for him. But pretty soon, he just made her life miserable. They got married, and he controlled her. Every time she wanted to do something, oh, you're not going to leave me alone with my condition. And she said, okay. Honey, it's your turn to wash the dishes. Oh, it hurts so bad, I can't wash the dishes. And everything was being controlled by this condition. And pretty soon she realized that her life was just so miserable. And she said, I don't know how it happened, but one day, in the story, I don't know how it happened, but one day I was standing in the hallway. And here he came. He had his long tentacles, those ganglia just like going all around, and he expected me to move. And she said, I stood there, and I just said, no. And he goes, aren't you going to move? It will hurt. I don't have the space. She goes, no. And he goes, oh, I'm calling Mother. I'm calling Mother. And so she said that she went, oh, and took her foot and went, and stepped on his gangway. And he's like, oh, it hurts, it hurts. And she said, it felt so good. And she stepped again, and she stepped, and she kept stepping. And she was just like exhausted. She's like, oh, I feel so much better. For the first time, she went to bed that night and slept at peace. And she said that he came and crawled into bed right next to her, and something amazing that night happened. All that ganglia started to recede back into his skin. And he was better next day. And y'all get the moral story. But how many times do we let people control our lives? And instead of saying, oh, here, I'm going to fix this for you, instead of saying, hey, you're not going to treat me that way. You're not doing that to me anymore. I will love you, I will care for you, but here's the line of sand. That's what we control. You see the rest of the thing, we can't control the crazies around us, but we can change how we respond, all those things. Next thing, learn to be content, and here's what I'll point out. Live and enjoy life for today. I love what it says in the prayer. Live one day at a time and enjoy every moment. Enjoy every moment. I'm not trying to be silly with this, but I want to ask you, when was the last time you had fun? When's the last time you did something for fun that really had no purpose behind it? Sometimes, when we do something, well, I will do this, it will better myself, or I will do this, it will better. No, when's the last time you did something fun? I'm going to tell you something. Last night, I saw something so amazing. Okay? Now, I hope I don't embarrass him, but if you're a pastor's kid, that comes with the territory. Okay? But last night, I saw my 20-year-old daughter, my 18-year-old daughter, and my 15-year-old daughter out on our sidewalk drawing with chalk. Okay? Now, part of me wanted to say, that's so childish. What are y'all doing? Then I remember I got a Batman collection. They're having fun. They're having fun. When's the last time you enjoyed life? That you looked at life as a gift and said, God, you've given me this. Help me to enjoy it. Help me not to worry about this. Help me not to think about tomorrow. Help me just to right now have fun where I am, doing what I'm doing. Enjoy life. And this is where our prayer comes in. Finally, trust in the goodness and the grace of God that is in you. Trust in God. There are so many things that you can't control, but there are things you can do. And what you have to do is you have to take what you have, give it to God, and let God take care of it. Okay? Let God take care of it. Let Him handle it. And only then will you be able to find that peace. So here's what I have for your homework. Okay? Your homework is to take that prayer that is beside your bulletin. And I want you to go home and I want you to pray it. But I don't want you to rush through it. I want you to go line by line. And think about the meaning of it. And say it. And look at your life and say, what does this mean in my life? Because we all want peace. But the only time we're ever going to have true peace is when we surrender our lives to Christ. And say, God, here's what's going on. Take it. Let me do what I can. But Lord, the rest is yours. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly and Gracious Father, Lord, life is so chaotic at times. There's just so much goes on. But Lord, remind me, that my job is to just do what I can, no more. And then to give the rest to you. And Lord, I have people in my mind that I'm thinking about. I give them to you. Lord, I have circumstances in my mind. I can't control it, but I give it to you. And Lord, help me be at peace. Help me to be at peace. accepting the things I cannot change, and having the courage to